Hi, my name is Isaac Shutt. I'm an estate planning attorney. I'm licensed to practice law both in Texas and in Wyoming. And today I'm going to talk about LLCs and personal asset protection and how you can use an LLC for personal asset protection in Texas. So first of all, let's talk about what limited liability even means. Because before I even dig into why this works or how to make it work, you need to understand what limited liability even is, because most people have it wrong. When we talk about limited liability for an LLC, it does not mean that the LLC can't be sued. In fact, it kind of means the opposite. So let's say, for example, you're like many of our clients, you own some rental homes and you rent them out to different tenants and things like that. And you own those rental homes like you should in an entity such as an LLC. And then let's say somebody sues you in your individual capacity and tries to get their hands in your individual pocket. Well, your response to that should be, wait a minute, why are you suing me in my individual capacity? That property is owned by the LLC. You have to sue the LLC. So you see my point? Using the LLC there is actually saying, hey, the limited liability company can be sued, but not me personally. So that means all of my personal assets in that example would be off limits from that renter. They would not be able to sue to get my personal assets. And so that's why so many of our clients are interested in an LLC for asset protection, because it puts those items that are in the LLC off on a limited liability island to say, basically, if the LLC gets sued, only the assets of the LLC are potentially at risk, but my personal assets are a totally different matter. So that's what limited liability is in this context. But sometimes we can use it in the reverse order. And that's great. It's getting popular in Texas. More and more clients are coming in and asking for an LLC for personal asset protection. And so here's the way that works. So let's say you create an LLC not for a to put your rental homes or things like that, but to put in like your investment assets and things like that, your brokerage accounts and things like that. You would say the business purpose of that LLC is investing in stocks and bonds and whatever else. And you would put those stocks and bonds and stuff in the LLC. And by doing that, if somebody sues you in your individual capacity, those assets that you put off into that LLC are not as easy for that creditor to get. So whether you're getting sued or whether you have a creditor that's coming after you, those stocks and bonds that you would put off in the LLC are not so easy for them to reach. And so that's how people are starting to use LLCs almost in sort of a backward way. But it's becoming really popular. Your LLC that you've created is almost like a different person. That entity is an entity separate and aside from you yourself. So let's say you hurt somebody in a car wreck or something like that and you get sued. Well, your LLC is not at fault. That entity over there is not what created and is not at fault for that accident. And so it doesn't have the same exposure that you do personally. So you might say, well, Isaac, yeah, but if the LLC is off over there and I own the LLC, isn't there some way for my judgment creditors to get at what I have rights to? And the answer is, yeah, kind of. You have rights to the LLC, but the goodies inside the LLC are inside the LLC. They belong to that entity. And so it's harder for creditors to get at the goodies inside of the LLC. They can only get what's called a charging order. So if everything is done right and everything goes to plan, if you get sued in your individual capacity, your creditors will not be able to get at the investment asset goodies inside the LLC. They'll only be able to get a charging order against your LLC. And what that charging order basically means is that as assets come out, as it has earnings and things like that, they have some rights to assets as they come out of that LLC. But even that, the charging order thing, look, these personal injury lawyers, they don't want a stinking charging order. They don't get out of bed for a charging order. They want millions of dollars. They don't want the ability to get a little bit of money over time. That's not going to pay their contingency fee. They're not interested in that. So having your assets in an LLC, even though they might be able to get some out over time through a charging order, that's not appealing to a personal injury lawyer. And if it's not appealing to a personal injury lawyer, how's this person going to sue you for millions of dollars for this car wreck if they can't even get an attorney? So this is, it is a strategy that it may not be perfect, but it is a good strategy. It's certainly a better than nothing strategy. And as long as you follow the rules, it's really not so bad. Those rules themselves are not so bad. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what the rules are and how to make this all work. Well, one thing is the timing is incredibly important. So if you've already been sued, it's probably too late to transfer personal assets into an LLC, because whoever's suing you is going to claim that that was a fraudulent transaction. Hey, you already knew you were being sued. You can't take money out of your name at that point. That's too late, bud. That's trying to defraud creditors, and that's not going to be permissible. Also, your LLC has rules, whether that's in a company agreement that your attorney has created for you or whether that's by the default laws of the state. Those rules have to be followed. And if you don't follow those rules, a judgment creditor is going to say, wait a minute, judge, why should they get the benefit of this limited liability if they're not even following their own rules? So it's important that you establish it correctly and that you follow the rules correctly of your company agreement and the default laws. Another thing is, you're not going to have asset protection by putting assets into a limited liability company if you have a personal guarantee on a debt. So let's say, for example, you've put in some investment properties into your LLC, and then there's a lawsuit surrounding that debt. And you say, well, wait a minute, I'm not personally liable. Well, guess what? If you have a personal guarantee on your loan documentation, that LLC is not going to be protecting a whole lot. So if you're talking about asset protection in terms of dealing with creditors who've extended credit to you, the devil is in the details of those documents that you've signed. Because a lot of times those contracts will have verbiage that would allow them into your LLCs. And so don't think of it as a panacea for everything. You need to pay attention to the documents you're signing on all of your loan agreements. I totally understand why LLCs for personal asset protection have gained so much popularity lately. We've done so many of them in our law office in Texas, and I understand why. They're actually relatively easy to set up. You go in, you meet with the lawyer, the documentation is created, we file a few things with the state of Texas, and then we set up your rules, and then you just need to make sure you follow those rules. But it's really not that bad. As long as you do it right, it's not confusing, it's not overwhelming, and it's generally worth it. So I understand why they're so popular. So I would encourage you, if you're interested in asset protection, to go meet with a lawyer to talk about creating an LLC for asset protection of your personal assets. And I have another video about irrevocable trust. That's another popular tool. I personally am starting to use LLCs for personal asset protection more so than irrevocable trust, but they both have their pros and cons. So go meet with the lawyer, talk about the pros and cons, the costs, and whatever hassle it's going to be to set it up. And you might decide this is something that's worthwhile. I hope you found this video helpful. My name's Isaac Shutt. I'm an estate planning attorney licensed in Texas and in Wyoming.